Did you know there are things that stress cats out far more than simply being picked up? Most cat owners make certain mistakes every single day without having the slightest idea that those mistakes are actively affecting their cat's well-being. And what makes this particularly interesting is that many of these behaviors seem completely harmless from a human perspective. From a cat's perspective, however, they represent situations that generate real discomfort, accumulated stress, and in some cases, behavioral changes that owners genuinely cannot explain no matter how hard they try. In this video, we're going to go through 10 specific situations that cats tolerate far worse than most people realize. Some of them are going to surprise you. Others are going to make you mentally review things you do with your cat on a daily basis, and the last one is especially significant because it directly affects their mental health, and it's the one that most consistently flies under the radar, even for the most attentive and dedicated owners. Stay until the end because every single point matters. And if you want to keep learning about what's really going on inside the mind of your cat, hit that like button right now and subscribe to the channel. We put out content like this every week, and you are not going to want to miss any of it. Let's get into the first one. Very few things trigger as immediate a reaction in a cat as being abruptly woken up while they're sleeping. Cats can sleep anywhere between 12 and 16 hours a day, and that rest is not a whimsical preference or a personality quirk. It is a deep biological necessity tied directly to their nature as hunters. During sleep, the feline nervous system recovers, reflexes recharge, and the body processes accumulated wear. Interrupting that process suddenly doesn't just bother the cat in that specific moment. Over time, repeated abrupt awakenings generate a sustained level of stress that can manifest as irritability, changes in appetite, or defensive behaviors that seem to appear out of nowhere. If you need to interact with your cat while they're resting, do it gradually, with gentle movements and a calm voice, giving their nervous system the time it needs to transition from sleep to wakefulness without triggering internal alarm responses. The second point involves something that seems trivial on the surface but carries enormous instinctive weight for a cat. Mealtime is not simply the moment the bowl gets filled. For a cat, eating is connected to deeply embedded ancestral behavioral layers related to hunting, food possession, and the protection of a vital resource. Even in a completely safe domestic environment, that instinctive memory remains fully active. This is why attempting to pet a cat while they eat, moving their bowl, calling them in the middle of a meal, or simply getting too close can trigger an alert response that the cat cannot simply switch off at will. Feline behavior specialists consistently recommend treating that space and that time with the same seriousness you would apply to any other genuine need of the animal. In households with multiple cats, this becomes even more critical since perceived competition over food can generate tensions that affect the entire group dynamic in ways that extend well beyond mealtime itself. The third point is one that creates significant conflict in many households, preventing the cat from accessing elevated surfaces. For a cat, height is not an aesthetic preference or a way of asserting dominance over the furniture. It is a functional necessity. From an elevated position, a cat can monitor its environment, identify potential threats, and maintain a sense of control over its territory. When an owner prohibits access to the table, to certain furniture, or to specific surfaces without offering any alternative, the cat does not interpret that as a house rule. It interprets it as the elimination of something it needs in order to feel secure. The most effective solution is not the prohibition itself, but the redirection. installing shelves, cat trees, or adapted furniture that satisfies the need for verticality in a way that works for both parties. When the vertical need is met elsewhere, interest in the forbidden surface drops considerably on its own. The fourth point is a natural extension of the previous one and concerns the cat's attempts to climb on people directly. When no vertical structures are available, some cats identify their owners as the most accessible alternative. The result is unintentional scratches that generate rejection reactions, and those rejection reactions create negative associations in the cat that complicate the relationship over time. The key here is not punishing the behavior, but understanding what is driving it. A cat that climbs on people is looking for height or seeking attention. And in both cases, the solution involves providing what it needs in the right place, rather than suppressing the underlying need itself. The fifth topic surprises many people: completely restricting the cat's access to plants. Cats are drawn to vegetation for reasons that combine instinct, sensory curiosity, and digestive need. Chewing small amounts of plant fiber is part of their natural behavior and serves a real function in their digestive system. The problem arises with toxic plants, of which there are many, and the typical owner response is to remove all vegetation from the cat's reach entirely. But the complete absence of that stimulus also carries a cost. The most balanced alternative is to grow plants that are specifically safe for cats, such as catnip or catgrass, which satisfy that need without representing any risk. It is a simple adjustment that measurably reduces the animal's frustration and keeps them engaged with something that aligns with their natural inclinations. The sixth point represents one of the most common misunderstandings in the relationship between humans and cats. Many people assume that cats love being petted intensively for extended periods and that more contact always means more happiness. The reality is considerably more nuanced than that. Cats have individual thresholds of tolerance for physical contact that vary from one animal to another, and that can shift even within the same day depending on the cat's current emotional state. When a cat begins moving its tail in a rigid, sweeping motion, when its ears rotate backward, when the skin along its back starts twitching, or when it attempts to move away, these are unambiguous signals that the threshold has been reached. Ignoring those signals doesn't just result in scratches or bites, it erodes the cat's trust in the owner in a cumulative way that affects the entire foundation of the relationship. Learning to read that body language and genuinely respecting it is one of the most important investments you can make in your bond with your cat. The seventh point involves something most owners do with the best of intentions, but that the cat experiences in a completely different way, treating it like a human being. Dressing it up, including it in loud social gatherings, exposing it to parties with crowds and high-volume music, or modifying its environment in ways that ignore its needs as an animal, all generate considerable stress levels. Cats need quiet spaces, predictable routines, and the ability to withdraw when their surroundings become overly stimulating. Respecting their feline nature does not mean loving them less. It means loving them in a way that actually makes sense from their perspective rather than just from ours. A cat that is forced to participate in environments that overwhelm its sensory system will develop avoidance behaviors, anxiety, and stress responses that accumulate over time. The eighth point involves the way we play with them, or more specifically, the ways we play with them that cross a line the cat cannot simply overlook. Pulling their tail, shaking them, deliberately startling them, or using bare hands as toys are behaviors the cat does not process as playful interaction. They process them as threats. And when a threat comes repeatedly from the same person, the cat begins associating that person with negative experiences, which damages the trust bond in ways that can be genuinely difficult to repair. Healthy feline play mimics the hunting sequence: pursuit, capture, and resolution. Toys like feather wands, small balls, or fabric mice allow the cat to channel that predatory energy in a satisfying way without anyone getting hurt, and without the animal developing anxiety around interaction. The difference between play that strengthens the bond and play that deteriorates, it comes down to whether the cat feels in control of the interaction. The ninth point profoundly affects the quality of life of many cats living in completely closed environments: the absence of access to external stimuli. Cats need to observe the world beyond the walls of their home. Watching birds, tracking the movement of leaves, perceiving the shifts in natural light throughout the day, and picking up the scents that arrive from outside are sensory experiences that keep the feline brain active and significantly reduce the likelihood of compulsive behaviors developing due to boredom or chronic understimulation. Windows with good visibility and comfortable access points, balconies secured with protective netting, or adapted spaces that allow safe contact with the outdoor environment are modifications that produce a noticeable difference in the animal's daily well-being. Natural light and fresh air are not extras for a cat. They are functional elements of a balanced environment. The 10th point rounds out this list and is arguably the one with the greatest long-term impact on the cat's mental health: the absence of sufficient stimulation and activity. A cat living in an environment without toys, without variety, without regular interaction, and without opportunities to exercise its natural instincts is not simply a bored cat. It is a cat under chronic stress. And that stress manifests in ways that owners frequently fail to connect to their actual cause: excessive grooming, destructive behaviors, changes in sleep patterns, weight gain or social withdrawal that deepens gradually over time. Enriching a cat's environment does not require significant financial investment. Elevated routes through the living space, rotating toy selection so novelty remains part of the experience, short but consistent daily play sessions that activate hunting instincts, and spaces that allow genuine exploration are elements sufficient to keep the feline mind healthy, engaged, and resilient. Now that you have a clear picture of these 10 situations, you have everything you need to make real adjustments to your daily life with your cat. Small changes in routine can completely transform both the relationship you have with your felino and the quality of life you both experience inside that shared space. The cats that thrive are the ones whose owners took the time to understand what they actually need, rather than what seems convenient or intuitive from the outside. And that understanding starts exactly with the kind of information you just encountered here. If this video gave you something genuinely useful, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. And if you learned something new today that you hadn't considered before, leave a like before you go. It helps this content reach more cat owners who need to hear it. See you in the next one.